So a key witness has run after cyber sleuths confirm Jay Slater was set up. And this guy isn't using the word allegedly either. So he's pretty much confirming that Jay Slater was murked and it was covered up after he was set up by his friends. So thank you so much to all the cyber sleuths keeping this story alive. Someone from Tenerife just confirmed the unthinkable and our suspicions we had all along in the Jay Slater case. Jay's friends set him up as an act of revenge. And this guy isn't using the word allegedly either. He has confirmed it. So this is kind of urgent because now we learn that one of the key witnesses appears to be on the run. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a video with me and Miss Gabby, the best private investigator on all of YouTube, because no clue is too small for her and she works for treats. Isn't that right? She turned her back. There we go. Come on, show your face to the camera. Show your pretty face. Jay Slater's friends, could they have lied? A setup so dark, there's nowhere to hide. So this TikToker, Bobs and Bits, who is a forensic specialist, came out and just confirmed through his source from Tenerife what we were all thinking from my last video, that Jay Slater was set up by his friends in Tenerife. You see, Jay went to Tenerife to celebrate finishing his sentencing for the 2021 altercation involving Tom Hilton. Jay's gang with machetes and golf clubs left Tom's skull exposed, and a woman, who many think was Lucy, had to stop the gang from unaliving Tom by jumping on him and saving his life. Jay's mom, Debbie, confirmed that Jay cooperated with authorities, providing a statement revealing who was holding the golf clubs and machetes, and that resulted in his friends getting harsher sentences, and Jay received a lighter sentence than his friends because he snitched on all of them, or grassed on all of them, as British people like to say. So while Jay was in Tenerife living it up, the other members of the gang were still at home serving, possibly creating resentment. It was revealed in recent days that Debbie was allegedly posting on Facebook leading up to Jay's demise how their home was being targeted by unknown people smashing in windows and attempting to burn it down. So was Jay's disappearance the ultimate revenge against Jay and his family? Did Jay's friends betray him? So one cyber sleuth alleges that Davis, one of the members of Jay's gang, actually worked with Ayub, moving substances in the UK. Davis also posted about Jay being unalive before it was even announced. It turns out the members of the supposed gang weren't friends with Jay, but actually friends with Tom. So it looks like Jay being set up by his friends in Tenerife was payback. This was only ever a theory up until now, until this TikToker confirmed that Jay was set up by his friends on behalf of the target of this altercation, Tom Hilton. It turns out Jay's friends, Brad and Lucy, had a secret alliance with Tom. You see, Brad ended up being way closer to Tom than we ever thought imaginable. Here is allegedly Brad and Tom at an important family event, and if that doesn't speak 1,000 words of how close they are, I don't know what does. Some are actually saying that Brad and Tom are cousins, they are family. So before this was confirmed, the suspicions of Brad, Lucy, and Tom having an alliance was formed after it was revealed that Brad and Lucy liked all of Tom's pictures on social media, and on Lucy's old Facebook, Tom and her are still friends, but on her new Facebook, Lucy unfriended him. So she probably lost the password to her old Facebook. So one can assume that Lucy was trying to hide her relationship to Tom, who some have actually suspected are romantically involved, and Lucy potentially saved Tom's life in that altercation. But that is all coming out now, because Bobs and Bits confirmed that Jay was only friends with Lucy and Brad for a year after they met at a festival called Greenfields. Despite the narrative in mainstream media painting Jay and Brad out to be best friends, it looks as though Brad's alliance might have been stronger with Jay's rival Tom all along. Sleuths have suspected this because very little pictures of Brad and Jay exist together, only dating back a year, and very little, if any, exist of Jay and Lucy together. So it looks like Brad and Lucy tried to earn Jay's trust to set him up. It's been revealed that Jay did not want to go on this trip to Tenerife to begin with, but Brad and Lucy actually pressured him to go. Why? Because this sleuth revealed Tenerife would be the ideal place to get rid of Jay, since the police there are corrupt and work with the mafia. I mean, there's one story of people who were on Tenerife getting into trouble with a gang, and when the police showed up, the police asked the people who were getting in trouble with the gang for their IDs so the police could give their IDs to the gang members. The mafia works directly with the authorities in Tenerife. I mean, there's a huge business of substance running there, and they are probably all paid off and are in on it too. Bobs and Bits confirmed that the mafia has everything to do with Jay's disappearance. Brad, Lucy, Tom, and the volunteer searchers, Chris and Luggy, work with the mafia to get revenge on Jay. So before we listen to this clip, I just want to point out this guy is not saying allegedly. This is confirmed, so this is huge.
Firstly, Lucy and Brad are good friends of Tom Hilton. Lucy and Brad meet Jay Slater at Creamfields. Now, there is only 1 year's worth of social media pics with Brad and his apparent best friend, Jay Slater. Chris Tenerife and Luggy are heavily involved in the society, as it's called, or as we know it, the mafia in Tenerife. But Chris Tenerife is tripping himself up all over the place, and there's lots of people who are swearing they aren't involved, who actually are heavily involved. Chris Tenerife and Luggy were called up to Masca to cover this up. The Airbnb or Booking.com was just a decoy, and he was taken and held on that boat. They staged a fall, an accident.
So that isn't allegedly. These are statements that he knows this to be true. That's interesting because in Tom Hilton's latest live leak, he said that Jay Slater was quote unquote taken from his family.
Happened a few years ago, and then because that happened, they started saying that I was involved in it. They searched my name up, found out I've been in jail and that for car crimes, and I don't know, they were just, I don't know, it went about age. I don't even know why everyone's still talking about it. Like, it's boring now.
Just trolling.
It's just stupid though, like you were a young kid, do you know what I mean? He got took away from his parents. It's nothing to be joking about and stuff. It's fucking crazy.
So did Chris Tenerife and Luggy help clean up the story by planting Jay's body on behalf of Tom Hilton? More on that in a bit. But very early on in the case, there was an unconfirmed theory that Tom Hilton's dad met Ayub in jail, and that's how this all transpired. Tom has always maintained he wasn't in Tenerife, but sleuths say he was captured on video at the NRG rave after his scar was identified on this video. And Bobs and Bits confirmed that Tom was there during the search.
And this is our friend Tom Hilton showing that he was in Tenerife at the time. Check the date, 18th of June.
Yeah, so Tom was in Tenerife, according to Bobs and Bits, who is speaking to locals there. This reminds me of how Brad's mom, Rach, was also there during the search, and she was also moderating these sort of clues on the Facebook group while simultaneously pushing a GoFundMe that Bobs and Bits alleges could have been used to pay off the mafia to do this work on behalf of Tom. Cyber sleuths allege Rach was moderating clues that revealed her son's Brad's involvement in his alleged best friend's Jay's disappearance. So who is a part of this gang of people that work with authorities in Tenerife? Bobs and Bits confirmed that these volunteer searchers who painted themselves out to be a non-biased third party actually work with the mafia to clean up the story and to get people to stop asking questions. Because Bobs and Bits points out that Chris Tenerife knew Jay was unalived before his body was even discovered.
We weren't up in the area where Jay went missing for the first 2 weeks. Why? Because specialist teams, the Guardia Civil, it was treated as a missing persons case. They were out searching. When there was a call for volunteers to go up and help, I had already done research and I knew at some point there was going to be a call for volunteers. I went up as a volunteer to try to help the authorities to find Jay so that that boy could be taken home and given the send-off he deserved, and so that the family could have some peace.
Authorities just find Jay and give him the send-off that he deserves. thought he was just missing.
And this has always raised red flags within the cyber sleuth community, since Lucy immediately reported Jay missing at 9:04 a.m., which is 24 minutes after Jay's phone last pinged at 8:50 a.m. Why would Lucy go to the police station immediately after speaking to Jay? Why not hop in a cab and start looking for him herself? And on the way there, she could call the police. She was under the impression Jay was on an 11-hour hike and not missing yet. To me, this behavior seems like someone executing a plan and trying to get authorities on their side after maybe, planting his phone into the bushes where it was eventually found. More on that in a bit. As I'm sure you're aware, Tenerife authorities searched the area of Jay's last phone ping for 3 weeks and even flew in world-class sniffer dogs to search that exact location where he was found. It's been confirmed by independent reporters the location where Jay's body was found was scoured for 21 days, and they found nothing despite Jay's body apparently being in the hot sun baking for that long, which these dogs would have picked up. I mean, not even DNA on a cactus that Jay apparently cut his leg on, which I believe was a cover-up and a major clue to what really happened to Jay, because I believe that Jay was cut on the beach in Los Cristianos before he passed. There are reports that the dogs didn't even pick up Jay's scent from the B&B, which by the way was scrubbed clean and the steps were freshly painted after Jay disappeared. Many sleuths feel that Jay never made it to this B&B alive, since the only witnesses are Ophelia, whose husband is a politician, and whose brother is Roman, the disgraced mayor of Tenerife, who is allegedly highly corrupt. The other person who confirmed Jay being there was a man by the name of Ayub Kasim, a convicted substance dealer. Ayub is the only one who ever reviewed the Airbnb listing, and he talked about how good the cleaner was. Why would you review the cleaner who was only ever there after you stay, not during your stay? It sounds to me sort of like an inside joke. I mean, guys, this B&B is a prime place to do nefarious activities since there is only one road in and one road out. And it also has like sketchy secret rooms that has like hooks and ropes and a headless torso here. And this room, honestly, to me, looks like people are cut up there and their body parts are sold, which some sleuths have wildly speculated that happened to Jay because flies were spotted outside the B&B during the search for Jay, and people think they see like boxes being carried out in the marina of where Jay disappeared, and this gang of people could potentially have sold Jay's organs to pay off a debt. But that is only some wild theories, but it is sort of interesting to think about considering this B&B is highly suspicious. But in the streets, cleaning or being a cleaner means that someone ties up all the loose ends for criminals to leave no trace of nefarious activities and to get people to stop asking questions. I mean, this is why people are having a closer look at Ayub's, aka Quack Quack's, now deleted Instagram posts, especially the one that appears to show 3 men doing the 3 wise monkeys sign, which is see, speak, and hear no evil. And this TikToker, Bobs and Bits, confirmed that these supposed innocent volunteer searchers, Chris Tenerife, actually work for, you guessed it, the Mafia. So the TikToker confirmed that Ayub, Chris, and his sidekick Luggy all work together. And their alliance is in front of everyone's faces because they comment on TikToks that are attempting to defame YouTubers like Wax Unfiltered, who are actively seeking the truth for Jay, trying to get us to be quiet. So the footage from the beach that was scrubbed from Rach and Lucy's Facebook group, as well as the website hosting this CCTV footage, was always said to be inauthentic. But sleuths later revealed that you can actually hear Ayub's friend, Rocky, calling for him using his nickname Quack Quack.
Quack Quack, forget about all that others.
So sleuths say this is where Jay met his end, on a beach in Los Cristianos. And the influencers bold enough to ask these questions and not back down were called conspiracy theorists. But now it seems that finally everything is coming together and to the surface. It was so obvious to many that Jay's supposed friends were lying for the world to see. Brad, in his ITV interview with Isla Tranquer, said he was on a Snapchat video call with Jay at 1% battery, which is impossible to do since the battery would just drain. Then Isla said there was no record of the Snapchat call because Snapchat deletes his records, which is misinformation and bad investigative journalism. Snapchat does record your video calls, and so some are actually suspecting this Snapchat video call with Jay and Brad never existed in the first place. And then we have Lucy constantly changing the time of her phone call with Jay. At first it was 8 a.m., then it was 8:15 a.m., then it was 8:30 a.m., and finally 8:50 a.m. As you can see, the time of Lucy's phone call with Jay keeps getting pushed back when Lucy probably realized the narrative she put out at the start made absolutely no sense. Jay was allegedly sighted by Ophelia at 8:15 a.m. here and made it to his final location at 8:21 a.m. And his final location, you can see through his Snapchat as well as Apple pings, was on a windy road right around here. And according to Google Maps, that windy road takes 38 minutes to get to from your B&B. So if Jay left the B&B at 8 a.m., as all his friends say, there's absolutely no way Jay would have made it into the ravine at 8:30 a.m. He would have only still been on the highway, unless Jay was some sort of marathon sprinter. And I also want to note that Ayub said in his very first account of the story, said that 20 minutes after Jay left the B&B, Jay was in a quote-unquote ditch after a quote-unquote girl called him and told him where Jay was. So this is so obvious that Ayub and Lucy, this entire case, pretended like they didn't know each other, but Ayub keeps blowing their cover. How did Lucy know Ayub's address to show up to this B&B? She says it's from that one Snapchat photo, but that is like finding a needle in the haystack. And how did Lucy have Ayub's phone number? But most importantly, how was Jay already in a ditch at 8:30 a.m. when, according to maps, he would have still been on the road? Well, going back to our kind of friend, Chris Tenerife, who allegedly works for the Mafia and has an alliance with Ayub, Chris tried to come out and fix or clean the narrative. Chris, in his tour of Jay's final location, said that Jay got off road on the highway up here where my mouse is, right up here, which is a straight road. But Brad, in his ITV interview, said Jay was on a winding road and got off to take a shortcut. But regardless, Chris tried to clean up the narrative by saying Jay got off the road here. And I just want to play this clip for you because it shows that, in my opinion, Chris is also lying, and it proves what the TikToker is trying to say, that Chris, the volunteer searcher, actually works for the Mafia trying to cover this all up.
It actually starts to become a little easier to come off road.
So why would Chris attempt to misinform audience despite the screenshots showing that Jay didn't go off-road at this point? He was on a winding road down here because it lined up with Lucy, Ayub's, and Brad's phone calls of Jay being in the ravine at 8:30 a.m. when he clearly was not. So it kind of backs up this TikToker's claims that they're all working together. Chris and Luggy, during their tour, were also trying to clean up this story about Jay's staged Snapchats. So I am of the opinion that all these final Snapchats taken by Jay weren't taken by Jay, but someone had his phone and used his phone to post these Snapchats as sort of like a red herring to throw off investigators and make it seem like Jay is alive. Recently, a text message was revealed that Jay stopped communicating with his friends the night before the rave. So is it possible that Jay had his phone taken from him because Lucy, in her interview with, I believe it was BBC News or Sky News, said Jay didn't have his phone with him. So how did Lucy know that Jay didn't have his phone? Was his phone already taken and Jay thought he just lost it? Was it premeditated that they were going to steal his phone to attempt to post these screenshots to throw off investigators? You see, there is absolutely zero chance that Jay took this Snapchat, the one on the red blanket, at 7:30 a.m., which is the time his friends allege, because the Snapchat clearly shows that it was still dark out when he took it. The sunrise on June 17th, as pointed out by sleuth Joe Dean, who runs an amazing Facebook group, was at 7:07 a.m. that day. So at 7:30 a.m., when he took the Snapchat, it would be daylight out, not dark out. But again, Chris tried to pull a fast one on his audience by saying that Jay left while it was still dark out.
Yeah, Luggy, just to get into the mindset of Jay, obviously Jay's travelled this road down in pitch black in the early hours of the morning.
In pitch black in early hours in the morning. I'm pretty sure the photo he took on his WhatsApp, it wasn't dark, mate. It was light. I'm pretty sure it was light. It definitely wasn't pitch black.
So I guess what really started Cyber Sleuths off was because we're just trying to fill in the blanks and try to make sense of the story. The official narrative pushed by Chris was that Jay was trying to take a shortcut, but his own family have come out and said that this was unbelievable. Because just looking at the ravine of where Jay's body was found, who's going to look at this after 3 days of partying and being hungry for scran, which, by the way, Jay could have just gotten at Ayub's B&B if Jay was ever there to begin with, would look at this and go, that's a shortcut. Independent journalists and his own family have stated it was nearly impossible to get to the location of where Jay's body was found. And it took Cyber Sleuths to reveal that Jay's body was accessible by boat. Wax Unfiltered brought up an excellent point in his latest video. It was reported by GB News and Daily Mail, Jay's phone was found on the beach at the end of the ravine down here. But Jay's body was found at the bottom of a 500-foot cliff up here, meaning Jay would never have been able to make it to this beach to drop his phone because he was already past at that point. I mean, it's just logically impossible. There was also reports that Jay's phone was found in the bushes as if it had been thrown there. Then his aunt came out and said the phone was wiped clean of any of his vacation photos even. So just make it make sense. How would have Jay been able to lose his phone on the beach if he was already past at that point? It's obvious to me and many other cyber sleuths, Jay was placed at the bottom of this cliff, and whoever did it made a mistake by dropping his phone on the beach. The official narrative said Jay fell 500 feet, but if he actually fell from that height, his skull would have been shattered. The coroner was able to identify blunt force to his head, showing that he couldn't have fallen from that height, because they were able to use his skull. And if he actually did fall from a height, his skull would have been obliterated. And now's a good time to remind everybody that an anonymous tip led to the location of Jay's body, which should have been a red flag in and of itself. And the night before Jay's body was found, there was a disturbance in the village of Masca, which was unusual, and everybody just so happened to be distracted by the football match between England and Spain. To me, because of the huge pressure put on by the media and all the cyber sleuths, it's obvious that a cleaner was used to tie up all the loose ends in the story to get people like you and I to stop asking questions. The real question is, who is actually behind all this? Bobs and Bits confirmed that Lucy was the mastermind behind all this plan, and she used the mafia in her favor.
Ayub, Rocky, Lucy May, Brad, they all work for the society along with hundreds more, okay? Some are mules, some are runners, okay? Now I believe that this was a premeditated revenge attack on Jay Slater for what happened with Tom Hilton as a favour for Lucy May. She went to the society or the mafia and asked for a favour, and they obliged because they had the means to do it in Tenerife. You can't get away with this in the UK because the police are everywhere, investigations everywhere, and the rules are too strict. In Tenerife, it's perfect. So when Lucy May approaches the mafia for this favour, they don't even think about it or question it. It's bread and butter to them, but they want something in return. Maybe a 30 grand GoFundMe account. How about that?
So that is really interesting because for my last video, a sleuth seemed to confirm this, that Lucy is the mastermind when talking about the mysterious passing of another of one of Tom Hilton's friends that allegedly helped target Tom in Jay's gang in that 2021 altercation. So this person by the name of Josh Sharp passed away 5 days after Jay disappeared. So Josh Sharp passed at an off-road track with no witnesses after his brakes failed, or that's the narrative supposedly they're trying to push. And this sleuth alleges that his brakes were tampered with, and Manchester police are appealing for witnesses. So allegedly, Josh suffered from blunt force to his head, similar to Jay. The sleuth writes that Lucy gets what she wants. Quote, his bike was tampered with, and I know it's hard to believe, but Lucy gets what she wants, and she wants people to do stuff and tamper with things, including clues. It happens. This girl is dangerous. So that gives me chills. And again, this TikToker is not saying it as alleged. He's saying that he confirmed it. My theory is that Jay was given substances at the nightclub to make him vulnerable, and Ayub and Rocky were just watching him like a hawk. And well, they met him on the beach, and the rest is history. My theory is Jay's body was planted at his final location by boat, and the MARUBA boat that disappeared from the same location and time exactly 6 minutes after Jay's phone last pinged needs to be seriously investigated, because I know they did do an investigation on it, but again, it was probably by the corrupt authorities. Now that all this has come to light, the key witness, Ayub, one of the last people to ever see Jay alive, has allegedly went to Somalia. It was revealed by his friend that Ayub actually lives in Tenerife. That would make sense since Ayub was also allegedly working at his friend's Potter Paper shop there. But 24 hours after Jay disappeared, Ayub went back to the UK after being questioned by the corrupt authorities, who most likely work with him. Everyone kind of glazed it over that he was just on vacation in Tenerife and it was normal for him to go back home, but that proved to be yet again untrue. Now sleuths have discovered Ayub allegedly took off to Somalia, where this sleuth says there is no extradition with the UK, meaning it's possible Ayub is hoping he doesn't have to be reinvestigated by British authorities. So guys, now more than ever, this case needs to be reinvestigated. Jay deserves justice. I have linked the petition in the description below, so please sign it. Thank you to all the cyber sleuths who made this video possible. Don't forget to subscribe here, right above Miss Gabby, who deserves a treat. All right, guys, I love you all. Let's roll the outro. And justice for Jay.